What's up, everybody? Welcome to session number 7 now. This is 7, right? Of Carnivore Coach's Corner, hosted by the one and only original carnivore bodybuilder himself, Jonathan Griffiths, and the smartest person on the planet, Mark Ennis from Ireland. Love you guys so much. Excited to have a little jam on I got a handful of questions. I got some questions for you guys, and let's just kick things off with this one here from a gentleman that we shall refer to as Bob. Is that all right?
How's it going, Bob?
Cool. All right, it's kind of a long one. So this is one that I got in my DMs earlier this week. Hi Colt, I've been thinking about one thing for a while regarding protein and fat macros on carnivore. I am asking you because I've been trying to both moderate and higher protein approaches. Currently, I am doing 1,200 kilograms of meat. Wait, no, excuse me, 240 grams. The way that these are written down with Europeans is kind of different than the way that we write them down with the commas and the and the units. So currently, I'm doing 240 grams of meat protein in OMAD. Okay, so he's 240 grams of protein, 1 meal a day. It can sometimes cause digestive stress, gas, and bloat, and that could be to stress as well. But wondering if it comes with too much protein. He goes, I'm 114 pounds, and wondering if I should try to lower the protein to 800 grams of meat, which is 160 grams of protein, and add lard or butter or keto brick or something instead to see if that can help my digestion. My only concerns is not being satiated from less meat and the lower thermogenic effect. If I get more hungry and with the lower protein, it's harder and it can actually cause me to eat the prescribed macros and not overeat. What is your personal experience with this? I'm thinking that he's probably eating a lot more protein than he needs. If he's at 240, I'm thinking he needs more fat. What do you guys think?
And he weighs 114, is that what he said? 114 kilos?
He weighs
114 pounds.
He weighs 52 kilos, 114 pounds.
Yeah, his protein is way too high.
Yeah.
Way too high. He only needs about 1.2 to 1.4 per pound, I think. So I'd say he'd be going for around maybe 150, maybe 160 would be his max. I think 240, that's the reason why he's having massive digestive problems. Protein is too high.
Yeah, he's a pretty lean dude too. So he's, I don't know, probably like if we just guess that he's around 15% body fat, that means that he would have like around 100 pounds of lean body mass. And so I'm thinking that Bob, I would recommend that you lower your protein from 240 grams to just a little over his LMB because it's already been pretty high. So I'm thinking like around 115 would probably be a safe spot to start, right?
And is he going to stick to 1 meal a day, or would he go for like regular feedings?
Well, he's already on 1 meal a day, and so especially if he's doing 1 meal a day, then I think that I think that adding lard, butter, or keto brick. If he's going to do the keto brick, he should do that first because otherwise that'll mess up his satiety signals. Because then he's all animal based after that, and so as long as he has a product that doesn't have any plant protein or anything in it, and then gets up to 120 grams of protein, I'm thinking he can probably get away with murder as far as his fats go because his protein has already been so high. So I think that he should eat 120 grams of protein and then eat as much fat as he wants without really a limit on it until he feels full and satiated, huh?
And what's the goal? Is he trying to build muscle or is he trying to lose weight?
General body composition, body recomp, build muscle, lose fat.
So I would bring his protein up a little bit higher than 120 personally. What do you think, Jonathan?
I think 120 would be a good end point, looking down the lane. But I think if he's eating, is it 240 protein per day in terms of grams?
Yeah, right now he's 240 grams of protein a day, so he's definitely getting spillover.
Yeah, that's a lot of spillover, as you guys have both rightly said. I think that he should decrease that incrementally. So I wouldn't go from 240 to 120. I'd go from maybe 240 to maybe 200 for like a week. Just make sure whatever grammage he's lowering into the protein to up the fat. If he's not feeling satiated from I think he said 800 grams of meat in a meal, one meal. That would suggest an eating disorder, personally, or at least a binge eating kind of habit. I'm saying this in the most respectful possible way, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the gut itself typically holds a capacity of around 400 grams. So he's eating to the point that he's doubling his gut volume in one sitting.
Yeah.
That is a lot of food. Obviously, when you're eating more fat, especially like you guys are eating, like I don't know if you eat tallow, butter, the keto breaks, whatever it is you have for a fat source, that's very dense in energy. Per gram, you're going to get a lot of nutrition out of it. So I'd probably scale down the protein, maybe 20 grams over the course of maybe a week, then another 20 grams, another 20 grams. And whilst Colt said sort of increasing the fat to 0.8 hit your satiety factor, I think 240 is way too much. I'm training 3-4 times per week, train to failure. Similar sort of, maybe between Colt and what Mark's doing in terms of volume. And I'm having around 200 grams protein a day, maybe a bit more some days. So as a point of reference, I'm over double the body weight of this individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So am I. Mark, were you going to say something? Sorry.
No, you go ahead, Colt.
Okay. Well, I just want I want to circle back to his the amount of protein that he's consuming, because I'm actually consuming about the same amount, which is kind of funny. And I also weigh 202 pounds, so my lean body mass is probably like around 160, 170 grams. Like it's probably pounds, so it's probably somewhere around there. I'm eating as much as I can possibly get away with, and some days I'm in ketosis, and some days I'm not. This morning I was in like kind of lower moderate ketosis. The day before I was in the deepest ketosis that I've been in the last couple months, and my protein is always around, at least on paper, 230 to 260, and we know that there's a little bit of margin for error depending on how you cook the meat and all that fun stuff. But what do you guys think? Do you think that me cutting back down to like 200? I mean, you know how much I train, about 20-25 working sets, 6 days a week. Do you think I'm getting some spillover too, and should probably cut back down to like around 220, 230?
I think that if you put too much protein in your body, you're going to be going to the toilet quite regularly. Your body doesn't need to hold on to that much protein. If you weigh 200 pounds, let's say you weigh 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And you're eating, 280 at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's too bad. I don't think it's too bad, personally. I think you'd be all right roughly around 220, 240. But if you feel like you've no gut issues at all, you feel like you're not getting any energy deficiencies at all, you're feeling good on a daily basis, then I would stick to it. If you're waking up on a regular basis and you're bloated and your energy levels are taking a dip, then I would drop that protein down a small bit and just keep the fats high.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Yeah. The goal isn't necessarily to be in ketosis right now. The goal is to continue to very slowly lean bulk and just maintain body composition at this point. So awesome. So circling back to Bob, then, I'm thinking that so we're suggesting that he lowers the protein until he gets to probably like around 120 to 140, kind of that ballpark. And then if he starts getting hungry, he'll probably know. But I think that his satiety will probably get better though. Whenever I consume more protein than I need, kind of to your point, Jonathan, I feel full but over full, but it's weird. It stimulates more of an appetite, and I think that's because the insulin spike.
Yeah. And a good point what Jonathan said as well. I wouldn't lower his protein down too drastically. I'd bring it down nice and slowly. Mm-hmm. Because if you drop him from like 240 down to 120, that's going to have a major effect on him big time. So I would say drop him down by, say, 10 grams a week, or every let's say every 10 days or something like that. Drop him down by 10 or 20 grams. Let his body get customized to that drop. And then once he gets to around 150, 160, see how he's feeling. If he's still making gains and he's feeling good, well, then that's a sweet spot there, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I think, as Colt kind of said, I mean, Colt's on quite a lot of protein per day, but there's always this element of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, Colt Colt's tried the higher protein thing. He's tried, was it Robert Sykes' kind of higher fat sort of ratio thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think both things kind of work, but I think being fine tune these things bit by bit, so up or down 10 grams, like Mark said, find what works for you. I think that the more physical activity we do, and that's anything which is more than basically sitting there. So I basically sit there right now. I'm very immobile, but I train very hard 3 or 4 times per week. Now, if I was very mobile, walking the dog every day, doing interval training, going swimming, or all these extra things, and yeah, probably be close to 250 grams of protein per day. But for me, somewhere around 200 or a bit over is about right. I think we all have that individual kind of built-in satiety that we feel best at. And I think with that as well, I think whilst the grams of protein and fat is important, the nutrients within each of those substrates is also important. So, for example, in a position where someone is in a high stress state, they might require more B vitamins, which we're going to find that in the protein source that we're getting. So it might be that you could also look at changing your protein source. So, if for example he's eating 800 grams of meat per day to feel satiated, although that is a nutrient dense, full, complete protein, is it that he's missing something in that protein that he might have a higher requirement of at that given time? So, does he need egg yolks? Does he need something else? Does he need dairy? Is he lacking calcium? There's a few different things to look at, and when I say lacking, it means it might not be necessarily that he needs a lot of it, but it might mean just having a glass of milk might just hit the spot, or a couple of egg yolks or something. So there's different ways to look at it. I think we've all kind of got quite a similar sort of viewpoint in this. I think it's probably the high end of the protein scale, definitely for this gentleman. But I definitely look at lowering it gradually and finding a bliss point where everything's going well in your training, you're getting stronger, but you're also not having to eat so much protein in one sitting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that does. Back to your point of what you said about with all due respect, it sounds like binging behavior. I would agree with that based on personal experience. Whenever I've consumed just way more protein than I need, it basically becomes carbs. It basically becomes sugar, and so if you're consuming sugar, you're not going to be in tune with your satiety signals. You're just naturally going to overconsume more food than what your body needs. And so the high protein approach for me never really was that sustainable. And I'm really glad that you and Bart kind of helped me understand what was happening there. But having the protein actually quite a bit lower and increasing my fats to match my expenditure needs, that's really been a game changer as far as being able to identify by my gut how much food is a sweet spot. Where anymore, I just know for a fact it's going to get stored as body fat, and then I'll notice a difference by the end of the week. And then if I'm under that amount, I'm just feeling super weak and not recovering as much as I should. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just adding to that point, just very briefly, about half of amino acids are gluconogenic. About 50% of them, the ones that we eat, so about half of what we eat can be turned into glucose quite readily. So I think if the guy just, if that say he's on 240 or whatever is protein, drop it down to 120 eventually, then replace what would be turned into glucose in the form of fat. His digestion might feel better. He might get that satiety signal much easier. He might just train a bit harder because he's got that. He's more fat adapted, so to speak, and he might be able to utilize the nutrients he's taking better because protein is quite a tough thing to deal with, and if you're having a lot of it, and especially a lot more than what you need, I think.
Yeah. Good stuff, guys. I got another question from a consultation. We're troubleshooting some things other than aesthetics, so I thought that you guys might be of help here, if you wouldn't mind. So he's dealing with. Sorry, let me see what his exact condition is. We shall also refer to this gentleman as Bob. He has osteoarthritis. Okay, so that's what we're that's what attracted him to the carnivore diet was to was to help this condition. And right now he's consuming the meal plan that I sent him off with was first meal 2 ounces 56 grams of bacon, 5 eggs, and then basically the same thing, same macros for the next meal, but it's bacon and ground beef. Each meal has 32 grams of protein and about twice as much fat. And then he's having like a flank steak and pork belly for dinner. Okay. So he's been doing that for, and I'm not even going to talk about macros because, well, yeah. Okay. So 180 grams of protein, 300 grams of fat. He's been doing that for a week. All of his skin around his midsection has gotten super tight. So now his belly button is like super small right now. So he's amped about how he's looking, but he's not feeling any better as far as his joint conditions go. So I'm wondering if any of these foods, if you guys have experienced this, and if maybe I should swap out something for something more cleaner that might help him work through this. I'm hoping that I'm explaining this correctly.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So, is there a particular food source that he's taking in that could be aggravating his joint issues and giving him some information?
Yeah, between bacon, eggs, beef, he's not consuming any chicken. It's all beef and pork right now that I have this guy on.
I think I already know what Mark's going to say.
I was looking at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll very briefly go over probably 3 things to look at. One is...
Oh, and sorry, he also lives in Italy too, by the way. So I don't know if there's a difference between how animals are taken care of there versus over here, but that probably has something to do with it too.
Yeah, so that's one of the things actually. So the pork quality in particular, depending on where around the globe you live, can make a big impact as well. So it might be higher in omega-6, which, some people say there isn't a difference. I think there could be. Enough people from the US say, I don't eat American pork. The other thing is training. Is it that he's getting joint pain because his training isn't, picture perfect, safe, effective, right exercises? Is he jolting the weight up? Is he locking out or not locking out his movements? What's his cadence in his lifts? Is it all, picture perfect sort of thing? Okay. The other thing as well is the 180 grams of protein perhaps too much, or does he have an intolerance to some of these things? Is it the eggs that he's intolerant to? Is that giving him some sort of
that's a really good point,
arthritis condition? I don't know.
That's a really good point. I think he should lower his protein down to 150 because he might be getting some spillover.
It could be that. Yeah, I mean, okay. I don't think too much protein from gluconeogenesis is that problematic for a lot of people. But if someone comes to carnivore diet, 9 times out of 10 there, someone with not perfect health. So that could be a potential problem. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Colt, we had this with a lady a few weeks ago. I won't mention her name, but we had the very, very same situation when we spoke to her at first. Remember when she had the shoulder injury?
Yeah, I know who.
And I spoke to her. We both spoke to her, and the first thing I said to her was, you need to lower your protein and you need to make sure the volume in your training needs to be lowered. 6 weeks later, what happens?
And now she has less fat and more muscle.
Everything has improved. And when I spoke to this lady and said to her, you need to halve your volume right now, otherwise you're going to get injured even worse. What did she say to me?
She thought she was going to lose her mind.
Yeah. So now 6 weeks later, she's improved. Her overall health has improved. She's got stronger bones. Her digestion is good. She was very, very worried about the protein at first, wasn't she? When I said to her she's lower protein, I think I lowered her protein by 50 or 60 grams on the day, and she was like, "That's way too much protein. Like, how am I going to stay full? All this." Once we increased the fat intake, I knew that she was going to perform the gym even better than what she's doing now. And now that she's focusing on her lifts and she's injury free, this is the reason why she's reaping the benefits going forward.
100%.
So I would say, first of all, we need to check his protein. I would say just lower it a small bit, but you'd also want to make sure what is he doing in the gym? Like, what kind of lifts is he doing? Is he doing a lift that's aggravating a muscle or is he like he could be lifting a weight off the ground and it looks wrong, or he could have the weight in a certain angle that's aggravating a muscle or something like that. It could be something so small, but you could pick it up just like that.
Yeah, looking at people's training footage is so critical as a coach. You know, people like us can, Mark and I, we can look at someone's footage immediately and say, you know, your foot placement's wrong, your cadence is wrong, you're rushing the weights, you're springing up and down, you're flicking your wrists in the wrong position, you know, all these different things. Usually it's so easy to pick apart, so I'd probably suggest getting in touch with Colt and, you know, just showing him some, if it's, for example, if it's a shoulder problem, show him your shoulder presses, show him your side raises, things like that. See what he's actually doing in the gym.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys. Do you guys have another question, or are we still?
I've got one in the chat, guys, from Sophie. I'll chuck it on the screen now. So Sophie asked, question: do you think the time of day one trains makes a difference?
I love this question. Who wants to take it?
I'll take it first. So, for me personally, yes, it does. For the reason why I find that when you train later on the day, you're more hyper. So if you're training depends on what training you're doing. Like if you're doing like a 2-hour session in the gym, and it's quite close to your bedtime, then you've got to take all factors into consideration. You've got to take a factor that you're going to be eating quite late, so that's going to affect your sleep. Whereas if you're training in the morning on an empty stomach, or let's say you had a bit of food into you in the morning time or whatever it is, I don't know what it is, but you have more energy. You just feel better. You feel like you're ready to go in and just attack it. Whereas if you've got a long day in work, if you have to work on 9-hour shifts, and you've got to say, oh my God, I've got to go to the gym after work, like you're not as excited. I know I haven't. Like I know I used to do it before. I know I used when I worked since my 9 to 5 job. And I used to go to the gym after training. The traveling, getting there, the traveling, getting back from there. It's not just like an hour and a half in the gym. You're probably looking under half an hour getting there, another half an hour getting back from there. That's nearly 3 hours out of your day. And if you've got a family, that's a long fucking time waiting your bleeding family. Whereas if you get up in the morning, get what you have to get done, I find the rest of the day just feels absolutely amazing. So that's just my take. And I always say to people, like if you can, get it done first thing in the morning. Because like 9 times out of 10, you won't want to do it in the afternoon.
Would it be helpful if I provide you guys a bit more context?
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah. So Sophie is typically training about 30 to 40 minutes per session. Quite high intensity. She's a home gym, so it's not a case of traveling anywhere sort of thing. She has 2 children. One is 1 year old nearly, and one is nearly 6 years old. So she tends to train around about 10 a.m. when the youngest one goes into bed for a nap. Usually the other one's in school, so it's not a problem. Now, sometimes the baby will wake up, so it's not a case of her being able to stay there for 30 minutes. Sometimes it's back and forth, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, you know. So it's quite a tricky one to sort of handle in terms of timing. Now, she works Mondays and Tuesdays all day. She gets home quite late. Sometimes she wants to train on those days. So in that instance, she's having to train after work, maybe 7 o'clock at night, 6:30 sometimes. So basically, her whole thing is, you know, is it worth her just kind of not training on those days, just giving it the 3-4 days, the other days of the week? Or if she really wants to train those days, should she just say sod it, you know, on a train after work? That's kind of a bit of extra context if that helps.
I would say it's completely up to her. I think if she's had a long day, especially if she's on her feet all day and she's quite stressed, I would take the day off the gym and go when you're 100% ready.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I kind of think the same thing. She typically trains after meal 1, and she has 3 meals per day. And her meal 1's probably, I'd say, usually about an hour and a half, 2 hours before. So she has the same protocol as me, pretty much. 1 meal, give it a few hours, train, you know.
Yeah. And I'm the same, like, I just a quick point. I'm the same as well. I always make sure the meal that I have the night before is a good meal. That because I always train in the morning. If I am training fasted in the morning, then I will make sure that meal before that is like the night before. I'll have it around 2 or 3 hours before I go to bed. I don't want to go to bed like with a full stomach. I want to make sure I'm feeling good going to bed. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't have that bloated feeling. I just feel good. Glass of water, and I'm ready to rock and roll. Go ahead, Colt. Sorry about that.
No. You guys are great. Yeah, my coach had always taught me that training in the late afternoon is optimal from a biological standpoint. Apparently, I don't know where he got that info from, but this
It's
dude's
the
super
body's
smart.
warmest body temperature.
What's that?
Yeah, some people that proponents of training later, they believe training when you've got more fuel in the system and your body temperature is higher.
Okay.
Yeah,
And he was saying that your testosterone levels are naturally higher during that point in the day too, maybe.
Yeah, because you've got more food in your body. That's why.
Oh, okay. Right on.
When you've got more food in your body, that then obviously it will go up. But I find that the more food you have in your body, if you're able to digest it properly, then you'll be able to train really, really hard. But I also find that if you're after having 4 or 5 feedings before you go to the gym, I've done it myself. I didn't feel good at all. My workouts weren't good at all. I felt like shit. I didn't feel good at all. Whereas when I changed it in the morning time and I stuck with that routine, I think the routine is key. Like, wait, if you go to the gym at the same time every day, it just becomes a routine. But when it comes to the afternoon, and then especially knowing that you have to have that meal, let's say you finish work at 5 o'clock and you haven't eaten since, like, say 3 o'clock, and you're panicking, oh my God, what do I have? Most people just, like, say down a shake before they go to the gym, bleeding crazy stuff. Or they might have a pre-workout, like they're having a caffeine drink on the way to the gym at like 6:30 in the afternoon. So they go to the gym, they're hyper, they won't get out of the gym until about 8:30. That's going to affect their sleep going forward. Then the next day they feel like shit, but they'll still go to the gym. This is what's going to hinder your performance going forward. So if you're losing strength and you're saying like, but I'm doing everything right, I'm eating well, I'm doing everything right. It could be that you're just training too late and you're not sleeping properly.
Yeah. I'm with you on the training fasted too, and it's basically an art of getting when it comes to resistance training, right? To get your food as close as you can to your training window, but not to the point to where you're bloated. So my last meal is always right before I go to bed, and then I do wake up feeling like almost kind of a little bloated, but I get great muscle pumps. And so lately I've just been waking up, and just kind of the first thing that I do is just start pumping the smaller muscle groups, and then and then intuitively think about what compound moves that I need to do based on my personal physique goals throughout the rest of the workout. And then and then before I know it, it's done. And then I got my cardio to do, and that's pretty much it. So I guess to your guys' point, yeah, what makes the most sense on paper is wonderful. And like when I was training in the afternoons, my results were good, but my results are better because I'm more consistent when I train in the mornings. So that's why, I mean, even Arnold in his book was like, he's just a morning trainer because that's when because that's how you set yourself up for the rest of the day. You know, you don't want to be thinking about the fact that you have to work out later in the day. You want to knock that thing. You want to knock it out first thing in the morning, and then the entire rest of the day, you're like, yeah, I feel amazing.
Yeah,
So,
I've got a question for you. I've got a question for you, Jonathan. What do you think about the whole peri nutrition around training?
I know pro bodybuilders that advocate it, that are sponsored by these companies, are big fans of it. They've got something to sell, like I talk about a lot of times in these sort of videos, and oftentimes they're using exogenous insulin to make more use of that food. I'm not a biggest fan. I think that impacts your digestive ability, and like I think you both of you guys kind of said the point that you want your food digested prior to training. You know, you shouldn't need extra fuel in your system. You know, your body should just run off whatever you're feeding it, whether it be carbs or fats. And we're fat adapted athletes, so we're in a position where we can benefit from tapping into our body fat anytime we want. I think it can bog us down if we're eating too close to training. I guess you're talking about intra workouts. Is that specifically what you're after?
Yeah. That's their. Yeah, I just want to. Yeah.
Yeah, not the biggest fan of intra workouts.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same as you. Like I see all these pro bodybuilders, all these influencers say that in order for you to get really, really big, the main time you need to have it is the main thing you should have is an intra workout. Now I'm looking at that and I'm saying, like, but that's surely a meal during your workout. Obviously, that's going to disrupt digestion. That's not going to make you perform any better in the gym. How is it going to make you get stronger in the gym? It doesn't make any sense. I've seen people put like 4 scoops of cyclic dextrin into a scooper, like fucking hell, like unbelievable. Like you're trying to nearly 100 grams of carbohydrates, and then creatine, amino acids, and taurine, and I'm like, holy shit. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, holy jeez. And like honestly, you walk in the gym and you see these tubs, they're about that size, and like they're drinking out of it, and you can see like you look like bleeding shit. You can see you look like shit.
I think part of it as well, Mark, is they're looking for these multiple meals per day, these multiple protein feedings. I think for anyone, any human being, I think the most you can get in terms of like muscle protein synthesis, the spikes throughout the day, like pulses, is about 4 or 5 per day. That's why I have about 4 meals per day. I could probably get all the same benefit out of 3. I just think there's such a marginal benefit out of the extra lot. I think that you're more likely to impact your training if you're bloated. I think there's studies or there's like numbers where you can find out, okay, once you eat your food, your blood volume, whatever percentage of it is, goes to your gut. That's not in your muscles where it's being utilized as a fuel, and you're using that to train. So you'll probably feel lightheaded and feel like crap. So I'm definitely not a fan. What about you, Colt? Are you interested in that sort of thing, or?
I'm sorry, I was working on Bob's meal plan. I was just revising it before I forgot the way that you guys told me to. Sorry, what was the question?
Mark's asking about intra-workouts for athletes. So are you a fan of like intra-workout carbs, fats, anything, I don't know. Whatever.
You know what? So what I'm consuming now is a stim-free pump formula with a citrulline malate 2-1. I'm down from 120 milligrams to 90 milligrams of caffeine officially from yesterday to today, and I noticed it mid-workout. That's usually when I kind of finish it, and I was like, oh man, that 90 milligrams went quick. But I'm getting better muscle pumps. I'm feeling fuller. Like my overall well-being is better. My sleep is better. And so I'm liking it, but it's just a tough thing to kick. And then transalinal glutamine, that's one that I'm a huge fan of. So it's a dipeptide structure instead of just like L-glutamine. It gets into your body and it goes straight through your system. And so you can only use so much of it, and half of it ends up going into waste. And we all know that causes inflammation. And then the whole goal is less is more, right? What do we actually need, and what are the supplements that are actually working? We're not just drinking something because somebody says that it's a good product, right? But transalinal glutamine, that's the reason it's different than L-glutamine is because it stays in your system longer. So I'm noticing fuller muscle. It's a glutamine attached to an alanine, like beta alanine. So it stays in your system longer, and it's been helping my recovery, and it's just something that I've kind of swear by. Taylor's coach was like, "You're on glutamine, right?" Like, you didn't even ask about other BCAAs, hydras, anything. She's like, "Just make sure you're taking glutamine." So anyway, that's one that I take. I use Metabolic Nutrition's translow glutamine, and I think that's pretty much it. If you would have asked me the same question like 9 months ago, it would have taken me probably a half hour to tell you every single supplement that I was taking. Now I'm just finding that less is more.
Would it be helpful if we all outlined our own intra and post nutrition routine? Would that be like pre-workouts, pump supplements, whatever?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Do you want to start?
Oh,
do you want me to start?
You say Colt or Mark?
Yeah, either one of you guys.
Well, that's pretty much mine.
So
Mark, how about you, bro?
So are we going by supplementation or just food?
Bit of both. Maybe like your pre-workout meal. Maybe whatever you do, like if you take a B complex, electrolytes, whatever, then post-workout meal.
Okay, so the meal the night before is always the same. So I'll either have either chicken thighs or I'll have a steak. I'll make sure it's high. I'll make sure that the meal is nutrient dense. It's high in protein. I feel really, really good. when I go to bed, I feel like I'm ready to go for the next day. I don't want to have anything that's going to have an effect on me when I go to sleep, because I know when I wake up the next morning, I'm excited to go to the gym. So that means when I wake up in the morning, everything is done. I just sit down in my chair, get my mindset ready, write down exactly what I'm going to go to the gym. While I'm doing that, I'm drinking a pint of water. No caffeine, nothing whatsoever. When I go into the gym, I bring a 2 liter bottle of water with me. I train my fucking arse off. That if I train really hard, that bottle of water will keep me going. I don't need anything else. If I need an extra pump, I'll probably add a little bit of salt into the water. 9 times out of 10, never happens. Maybe if I'm doing like a big massive leg session or something, or back session deadlifts or something. But no, water's always my protocol. Then straight after training, then I don't eat because I'm in bits. Like my stomach is like a washing machine, so I'm not hungry at all. I'll wait about 90 minutes to 2 hours. And again, what I'll do is I'll have something simple. I'll have either I won't have any fats at this point. I'll just add in a little bit of protein, just something small, about 50 grams of protein, and then about an hour later, that's when I'll have my second meal. And then about a couple of hours later, then I'll do the whole thing again. So I'm the same as Jonathan. I eat 4 times a day as well. So my main meals are 3 meals throughout the day, and then I'll have a big meal when I go to bed. So my big meal is what's going to fuel me for my workout the next day. But when it comes to supplementations, the only thing is
You guys still there? I think we lost Mark.
Mark's frozen.
Mark is officially frozen. Bummer.
He looks nice though.
Why do you guys eat 4 meals a day?
I find my appetite doesn't really go towards 3 meals. I find it makes me feel a bit sluggish.
Huh.
I find like 3 meals with, if I'm having say 210 grams of protein, 70 grams of protein per meal, that's a lot for me. My guts don't really like it that much. I think it's quite individual, you know. I think Mark's about the same. I think the bigger the person is, usually the more food they need. But saying that, I know people, right, that can eat double what I can eat. So like 300, 400 protein, 400 fat, and they'll do it in 2 meals. So I don't think there's a wrong way. I think most people doing a carnivore diet probably eating, that I speak to, about 2 meals per day, if I'm honest.
Cool. Mark, you had such a good rant, dude, and then you got frozen like towards the end of it. It looked like you were kind of having. I know.
always. So the only supplements that I take at the moment around training or in the morning is a vitamin D3 and fish oil. That's all I'm taking at the moment. I don't take any pre-workouts. I gave up caffeine a long time ago. I thought it was destroying my stomach. My anxiety was going through the roof. I was giving out for no particular reason, and I knew exactly what it was, and it was affecting my sleep big time. I haven't had a caffeine supplement in about about 8-10 years now, and I feel fantastic. I feel great. I think my workouts haven't changed. I still train as hard. I think I've said this to you guys before. The only way I know I'm getting fired up in the gym is if I have a good sleep and what I do the day before, as in my meals. If my meals are on point, my sleep is on point, I know I'm going to wake up the next day and I'm going to go into the gym and I'm going to crush it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
Don't need any supplement to tell me what to do.
You are my inspiration, bro.
That's cool stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jonathan, what about your intro workout?
Me. So pre-workout is usually about 90 minutes to 2 hours before, in terms of like a meal. So that would usually be eggs, cheese, and a glass of milk. Maybe 200 ml of milk, maybe 250 ml. Usually butter as well. So I'll make a carnivore protein butter bite. So quite small volume meal, but nutrient dense. The only hydration I get prior to workouts, other than a small pre-workout I might make, is milk. My pre-workout is usually taurine, creatine if I can be bothered to take it and remember to take it. I don't eat much meat, guys. Usually I take a B complex as well. Not always. It's one of those things I can take or not take. That's again just because I don't eat much meat a lot of the time. My guts are still wrecked from antibiotics post-surgery. So anyone watching this, like after the point, it is a case of individuality. So it's not something I'm sort of saying a lot of people to do. So yeah, taurine, creatine. Sometimes caffeine, sometimes not. I prefer just to pump pre-workouts, so something like citrulline, that sort of thing. There's probably other ingredients as well in my pre-workouts, but you know, I couldn't really list them. I think the main things are the citrulline and the taurine I take. Outside of that, intra-workout, I'm usually drinking maybe 300 to 400 milliliters of just plain simple water. Usually Evian mineral water from the Alpine Springs in France. Yeah, been a bit pretentious there. Then after the gym, usually I'd say about an hour and a half, maybe, yeah, about an hour and a half sometimes. It'll be a protein shake, which is on my YouTube channel. It's called The Best Anabolic Protein Shake You Haven't Tried Yet, something like that. It's usually raw milk, raw eggs, and a scoop of protein powder, so maybe like 40 grams of whey, maybe 50 grams sometimes. And sometimes a scoop of taurine as well, and that's about it. That's it in terms of intro, post workouts. My intro workout is essentially 300 to 400 mils of water. And like Mark as well, if I have not had enough salt in my first meal, I'll add a pinch of salt to that as well.
Good stuff, guys. We got a question here from Lawrence, if that's all right. One of my bodybuilders.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. He's on more or less a paleo hybrid diet, and so he's a fan of the carnivore diet, loves the carnivore diet. His whole goal right now is to get his IFBB Pro card, and then when he retires from bodybuilding, he wants to go all carnivore. He doesn't really want to make that step right now because he's doing so well with the diet that he's on. But he's super curious, and he like anything that you say, Jonathan, like he's probably researched it and probably agrees with you. But he's just he wants to know if you guys have noticed any difference in workout duration and intensity since becoming carnivore. If you're able to work out longer and if you're able to work out more intense. He and I got a good workout in, and this was a couple days ago. He trains very hard, very explosively. I train hard and explosively during the sets, but I'm really taking my time, slow and controlled deep breaths between sets, and I'll be in there typically longer than most athletes because I also do a lot of cardio, right? So I guess personally, I've noticed that basically when he and I train together, I feel like I can go longer. But this guy, like when he hits a lift, he gets after it, and he's just a total beast. I don't know. I'm curious as to what your guys' thoughts are there.
I've noticed two things since I've gone carnivore in the last couple of months. The first one I've noticed, my DOMS has gone down big time. Like my delayed onset and muscle soreness, I don't get as sore as much. I could probably train every day if I want. And I tested it about 4 weeks ago. I done a 6 day on. I trained pretty much the same as what I'm training now, but I done like just more frequency. So I done 6 days a week, and I thought it was going to be really, really sore. And I took every single set to failure. And the next day, I felt great. Felt absolutely fantastic. The other thing I like about it is it's more satisfying. I'm full. I'm not thinking about food. Whereas before, when I used to do the standard 6 days or 6 meals a day, I'd do my training, and I just cannot wait to get home and put the rice in the plate or the chicken on the plate because I'm starving. Whereas now I'm completely fat and completely satisfied. I feel great. Honestly, I wake up in the morning. I'm not getting I've never used a snooze to get up in the morning. And you guys probably know me by now. I'm up at every morning at 4:30, and I'm usually up at 4:15. So I'm usually 15 minutes before the alarm goes off. I've noticed that once I've gone carnivore, I wake up and I feel great. I don't know what it is. I feel fucking fantastic, and I can get so much work done in that 5 hours before everybody gets up. I can get my workouts done. I can get the dogs out for walks. My mindset is on it. It's just on it. So I've noticed massive improvements. So I would recommend, and I've never been. This is on my first bodybuilding show, as you guys know. So I wouldn't be the expert here to say like, would you rather go down the normal route or the carnivore route? But I know personally, because I'm doing a bodybuilding competition coming up, I don't think anything's going to change personally from me being on carbohydrates, because I still have good pumps. I'm still lifting. I'm actually lifting heavier now. Also, I'm eating a lot more food, and I look fucking leaner than ever. Like, honestly, the last time I was this lean, I was on very, very low food, fucking killing myself, going into the gym and doing cardio twice a day, 45 minutes on a Stairmaster. I might have looked good on the outside, but on the inside, I was falling apart. Falling apart. So I know this is going to be more sustainable for me because I know when we do eventually drop the food, I'm going to still, it won't be anywhere as hard to what I used to do before because I have been lean on the 6 standard meal a day and it's fucking hard. It's horrible. It's torture. Torture.
It's impossible. Yeah, no, I
It's
was
horrible. Honestly.
yeah, 4 years ago, the year of 2019, I did 3 or 4. Yeah, I did 4 bodybuilding shows actually that year, all on a paleo hybrid diet. My primary fuel source was sweet potatoes for carbs. Weighed them out every single day for an entire year straight, man, and was bone shredded and didn't have a lot of muscle by the end of the season. And I was always hungry, man, for a year straight. Like it's just, and I was shredded, and it was cool, and it was fun in the summer, just being outside and whatever, because like not a lot of people are, but man, it just, in a lot of ways, it really wasn't worth it. And that's the cool thing about the carnivore diet is you can get your physique, and then you can actually keep it, and you can stay leaner much easier. It's because go outside and look at any animal. Like we are the only animals, we are the only species on planet Earth that actually tries to eat less, and so that we don't overconsume and have health issues because of it. There's no animals on planet Earth that get overweight and like just by accident. Okay, pets, sure, because the people are feeding the pets carbs, probably. I like to. She's asleep right now. Zion is, but I like to feed her dog treats that actually have some carbs in it, because it like wakes her up and kind of like stimulates her appetite, and then she wants more and she pays attention better, and so I can train her better when she has carbs in her diet. But at the end of the day, you don't. If you have carbs in your diet, it's a losing battle to try to stay lean, because it's not a species appropriate diet.
Yeah, I can say the same thing as both of you guys. It's much easier to stay in shape when you're doing a carnivore diet. People are going to probably watch this after the fact and think, "Oh, I'm going to hop on it now and do the same thing," but the chances are they'll do it wrong. And people routinely do it wrong, so they'll think, "Okay, I'm going to start the carnivore diet. Okay, I'm going to eat chicken breast and I don't know, cheese strings for 3 months, and I'm going to feel like crap." But they won't eat enough fat, and that's always a problem.
Yeah.
I think becoming fat adapted prior to doing any kind of contest prep is really crucial.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
That's part of it. So I just want to get that across quickly, because people obviously hear us talk about how great it is, but not have that prerequisite information. I found the diet much easier myself. I find that it's less to think about, less sort of temptation when you're going around the shops, because you only go down like 2 or 3 different aisles, or if you go to a butcher, you're just going to one place. There's little to go wrong. I find all these subtle little things that you'd usually have issues with tend to diminish. So, for example, I used to have really bad knee pain. I don't have knee pain at all now. I used to have really bad digestion. It's not bad at all now, unless I eat too lean or eat too much fat in one go. It's about keeping sensible, having the protein, fat, and different feedings. Then what else? Like my congestion is much improved, so I wouldn't say I'm asthmatic anymore. I'd say I could probably pump out about 1,000 in one of those spirometry machines quite easily. Outside of that, I mean, it's very tricky to say if my fitness has improved, because I've never been that fit, at least in recent years. I'm not an athlete anymore, like a sprinter. I don't do athletics anymore, so I never specifically trained for that kind of endeavour. But I will say if I did, it'd be much easier, because I'd be able to tolerate things a lot more, like the joint pain when you're doing all these like intense sprints and things. I'd say my recovery is overall better because there's less inflammation, or at least the inflammation I would have is better modulated. There's not so much omega-6 in my diet as there was before. It's not as inflammatory. I think part of the benefit that people like Colt, Mark, and myself will get from this diet is learning things outside the diet. The lifestyle things, the ancestrally compatible things that we do in addition to the diet. Getting more sunlight, not staring at a screen all day. I know Mark's always outside doing boot camps and things with his clients, so these sort of things come into it more. I think that's part of what the benefit that we get from this diet is. But we'll caveat again, don't jump into this thing overnight and think you're going to get all the same benefits that we're getting from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And when you bring the lifestyle and the more ancestral aspects.
And
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Mark.
No, you're okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah. When you bring the ancestral aspect into it too, that there's so many things that you can that you can do to change your body composition, other than eating less and moving more. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that I've learned from both of you lately, has been okay. You don't need to do an hour on the stair mill a day. I did today, but that's beside the point. I was doing like an hour and 15 minutes last week. That's all, just for the record too. If anybody's like hearing that for the first time, I never recommend that anybody do that much low intensity cardio. I've been training for a marathon for quite some time, and so I'm just trying to work around my foot injury right now. But my wife and I have made other commitments to have more enjoyable energy expenditure than quite so much low intensity cardio. I'm not going to get into detail about that what that is, because I don't want to if there's any kids listening, but
keep it under wraps, Colt.
Yeah. But back to Lawrence's question about workout and duration and intensity. I've just been able to recover a lot quicker. I think that's the biggest thing I've noticed lately. Getting rid of plants has been something that I've never really gone all in with since becoming primarily meat based, and I didn't really realize it was necessary because I didn't realize how damaging they were. But my inflammation from and my joint pain is 10 times better than it was 2 weeks ago, before I refined it to kind of what it is now. So I owe you guys a big one on that. Man, I'm super bummed that we just lost Mark. He'll probably be back. But I got a question for an athlete that's going to be stepping on stage here in a couple of weeks. I wanted to run my peak week protocol by you guys. If you have time for that.
Yeah, you can do. You can ask now if you want. Just rehash the question to Mark when he comes back.
Yeah, Mark doesn't know this gal, but so I got an athlete that's 2 weeks out from a show, and she competed in last November. Okay, she got down to 129 pounds. What's her stage weight? Shredded, full muscle bellies, 100% natural. She was on a high carb diet though, and does not want to has not been interested in the idea of not consuming carbs on her prep. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, so we did rapid backloading for her last show, and we dropped her carbs down to basically trace, and her protein was at 150 every single day. Fats were at 75, and then we did rapid backloading to fill her out, and that worked pretty well. She could have got fuller, but she was nowhere close to spilling over. She can really hold muscle glycogen really well. Very high and very, very, very long workouts. That's how she trains. So coming into this show, she's 5 pounds heavier. So I'm assuming that she's weighing 135 right now, and so she's definitely filled out in her legs. So I'm guessing she's built about 3 or 4 pounds of natural muscle since the shows. But she's holding in this. She's just softer than she was last time, and both of us are kind of frustrated because we don't know why. I'm 99% sure that her hormones are just running to the ground, and her body's basically fighting her and telling her that she's not ready for round 2 right now, from a composition standpoint. So we had kind of a come to Jesus moment yesterday, and what I'm recommending is going from, okay, so her macros have been 160 protein, 200 carbs, 85 fat. So what I'm recommending is going away with all the carbs. That's what her current meal plan is now. Today's day 1. I'm waiting to hear how it goes for her. But I dropped her protein from 160 to 130, carbs from 200 to trace, no carbs, and fats from 85 to 160 grams. So we're going to ride that out for the next 2 weeks, which I believe will deplete her and get her fat adapted between now and the show. We're going to do that all the way until the night before, until 2 days before the show. We'll do a fat refeed because she's not, because if she burns any more fat at that point, she's going to be, she'll just retain water and it'll show on stage. So we kind of want the fat burning to be done about 2 or 3 days before the show, if at the very least. So now I was going to do a fat refeed. So her macros 2 days out would be 120, 0, and 220, and then her carb refeed will be 130. 130 protein, 700 grams of carbs, which is just a little higher than it was last time. 10 grams of fat. That's my plan to get her absolutely peeled and shredded and as full as possible. What do you think?
It's tricky to say because I can't see her or know her exact history, but I probably wouldn't go to either extreme, if that makes sense.
Okay. Do you think we should taper off carbs a bit more slowly? Because the clock is
so I wouldn't go for like trace carbs sort of thing. I'd probably, if she's on 200 carbs, 85 fat, it might be that you push her up to, I'm saying this on the point of I don't have a reference point, but I'd say that maybe 120 fat and 100 carbs or something.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't do any kind of refeed, deplete, load, or anything.
So you would just gradually taper down carbs all the way up till the show, and then just kind of fill her out the last couple days.
Yeah, I'll just keep the fat a little bit higher. So I drop carbs to like 100 and increase fat to like 120 or something. Or I probably wouldn't refill or anything like that. I mean, even the biggest athletes don't have 700 grams of muscle glycogen.
When she filled out on 600 grams of carbs at her last show, she could have filled out a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, she looked bigger and tighter the next day after the show.
Is she reducing her activity prior to the show at all?
Nope. Training volume is still roughly the same, and cardio is. I just had her add 10 minutes onto the stair mill post workout.
Okay. Yeah, I think if her output's the same and she can tolerate, is it 700 grams of carbs, then yeah, if she's done it before, if you know something's worked before, it's worth trying again, I guess. You've got that kind of experience, I guess, so yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to wreck her digestive system because it was just like, I mean, she was, I felt bad for her. I was like, you have room for more rice, and she was like, no, I don't. And then and like every other coach that knows her too was like, you need to eat more rice.
Maybe split it between 3 days, sort of thing. So do like
that's why I was thinking that would be a good
something.
time. That's why I was thinking that would be a good time to do the fat refeed first, and then the carb refeed next, and so we'd fill her out on both basically.
Yeah, you can try. I think your own experience probably trumps all. So it's very, like I said, it's very hard to sort of pinpoint what I'd do personally in that sort of example.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. So she's gonna let me know how her first day went, and then I mean, if she, because we've been depleting her once a week anyway, so I mean these macros are nothing new to her from that perspective, and she typically likes the days where she doesn't eat any carbs at all. So I'm going to see how she does after this first day, and then we'll just take it one day at a time. But I'll keep what you said in mind too, because if it's 3 days into it and and she just like starts shutting down from not having any carbs, then I'm thinking that reintroducing them slowly and filling her out into the show might be a better idea too. I guess we'll take it one day at a time and see, and let her body dictate.
I think that's the best way. We've got one question directed towards you, Colt, which is from Declan in the chat. He asked, how much low intensity steady state cardio would you recommend daily, Colt? I do about 30 to 60 minutes of assault bike currently at a sustainable pace, no sweat.
Awesome. Thanks for your question, bro. The first thing I need to know is what your goal is. And so are you training for aesthetics? Like, do you have a deadline? Are you training for a photo shoot or a competition or something? Or are you just wanting to be healthier overall and just kind of have a year round sustainable look. If that's what your goal is, and you just want to like lose 5-10 pounds to lean up a little bit and achieve that, I would actually. I know this is weird. You're talking to somebody that does a lot of low intensity cardio, but I'm also training for an endurance goal, right? Um, I, I would recommend thinking of as many other things as you could possibly do before implementing cardio. Things like a weighted vest, things like I mean, like I'm playing with my dog. Like we make it rough, we make it fun, and so that like my heart rate's kind of up. And then after that, we totally tell her to chill out, and so that she's not jumping on other people. But dogs kind of need to do that, right? They need to get their energy out too, and so things like going to the park and like actually, not just sitting and watching my kids, but like running around and playing with them. Um, if I'm gonna go to Costco, I'm wearing ankle weights. Like it's a fashion statement. I don't care. People, like, what do you? Yeah, you kind of look like a dork, but you'd be amazed how many people walk up to you and like, wow, that's really smart. I never would have thought of that. Okay, so you're training just for health and lean bulking. Awesome. Yeah. So there you go, bro. I would just check as many boxes as you can possibly think of as how can I have more energy expenditure without having to without having to just white knuckle it. You do not want to white knuckle low intensity cardio. If you're doing that, you're just increasing. Let's listen to Bart K. You're just increasing your appetite and you're increasing your cortisol. It's going to affect your sleep and it's going to make it really hard to stick to your diet. And so you're not going to be able to be in tune with your satiety signals. But if you can, but if you can focus more on non-exercise activity thermogenesis, that's kind of ancestrally how we're meant to live anyway. God didn't make us to go just jump on the treadmill for an hour straight.
Yeah, I think from my prior knowledge of Declan, I think he's got quite a poor recovery state, just the way he's built, I guess. He typically trains something, a rough guess, like 6-7 sets, maybe every, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 days. He doesn't train that frequently. And I know that he's conscious of not doing a lot of like intervals or something too intense because it digs him down, sort of thing, by the sounds of it. But that's my prior knowledge, sort of thing. So I don't know if that might helps much.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. The more I talk to your European guys, I'm just like, wow, Americans really overtrain. I mean, way too much cardio and way too much training volume. And I'm like, wow, the less cardio I do and the less training volume I do, I can, my muscles are growing faster now because I'm giving them a very, very clear signal that they need to grow. Very, very clear signal. Every single set is to failure now. And then after 20 working sets, you're toast. You can't do anymore. And anything after that is overkill. And then then if you go overboard on your training and if you go overboard on your on your cardio, it just makes it impossible to stick to your diet. So you always got to take a step back and look at the big picture. Now, that being said,
Yeah, I think for
oh,
go ahead,
okay,
Colt. Go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna add one more thing. What? Okay, so here again, I'm training for a very specific goal, right? All of the low intensity cardio that I do, it's very, very critical that I'm in the right state of mind when I do that. So I'm not stressed out when I'm on the stair mill. If I'm gonna go if I'm gonna go hit the stair mill, or if I'm gonna go do any kind of low intensity cardio, I always make sure that I have something fun to do while I'm doing it. So that's usually when I do. That's usually when I check in with clients and when I text everybody. They're the people that I can just like be myself around. If I'm posting something on YouTube or something on Instagram, that could be someone's first impression. So so that's kind of different. But if it's people, basically everybody that we're training up to this point, we've been training for quite some time now. That's the other interesting thing about the carnivore diet is like people are in the carnivore diet, they're there to stay. And so most of our clients, we're having a hard time selling the big transformation packages like we used to before we were on this diet. But now it's just like people want to do it for the rest of their life and they don't ever want to get off it. And that's the way you should approach, any diet, this one in particular, because this is kind of the best. But my state of mind is critical when I'm doing when I'm doing low intensity cardio because it's all hormonal. So if I'm enjoying it and it feels good, and I love how I feel when I'm after it, when I'm done, there's so many endorphins that are released that like I really just enjoy being covered in sweat by the time that I'm done with any kind of low intensity cardio. I feel like that's a net win, you know. If you're white knuckling it though, and you're just blasting music and chugging caffeine just to get through it, you're not burning fat, you're burning muscle. You're killing yourself, and it's not sustainable. There's no way to live your life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you. I couldn't agree with both. No, I was just going to agree with you both. I think that when you see an awful lot of people thinking that when they're trying to lay in bulk, they're adding too much. They're adding too much to the pie, basically. Like they're not training specifically what they want to do. So if you want to lay in bulk, then you should be just focusing on eating properly and lifting weights and doing low steady state cardio. If you're into sprinting, do sprinting. If you're into cross country, do cross country. Just make sure that the training that you're doing is specific to your goals. But if you do too much, it could hinder your progress going forward.
Yeah. My legs have never grown faster since I stopped running. Like, they're growing the way that I've always wanted them to right now. And I'm like, wow, yeah, okay. Maybe this happened for a reason.
Right. Are we done?
It's getting iced
It's
right now.
bedtime for me and Mark. We're getting tired and old.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to chat with you guys. Get some good questions out.
Good jam.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
All
You're
right.
only a young man, Jonathan. You're only a young man.
I always say I'm the youngest guy here by like at least 4 years.
You're what? You're 26, 27?
I'm 27, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I
Hard to believe you're 27. Holy shit, man.
I look old, don't I?
Dude, I was shaving. I was shaving this morning, and I looked in the mirror, and I was like, "There's some gray hair there. When did those get there?"
Your face is young, though, Colt. Your face is very young.
Yeah, let's just keep it shaved.
Have you not seen mine? I'm covered in bleeding stuff. I'm like a silver fox now. See that?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right.
You know Philip Schofield, don't you, Jonathan?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know you mean.
There you go. I'm looking like him every day.
I can see that a little bit. Yeah. All right, guys. I'm gonna wrap this up now. Anyway.
All right.
Right.
Thanks so much, Jeff.
See you later, right?
Thanks so much, everybody.
See you later, bye.